Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking out a super fun and exciting video for you guys today, and one that's going to be really good for absolutely everyone enjoying some PlayStation 3 emulation on RPCS3. That is because there are some new updates that are going to benefit absolutely everyone, whether you have the highest end gaming PC out there, or you have a rotten potato with some tendrils coming out of the side and a little bit of mush and water running out of the bottom. That is because there's been some improvements on the SPU, or synergistic processing units, on the PlayStation 3 architecture. If that doesn't sound familiar, I'll go into a lot more of that in depth, but trust me, the SPU absolutely is why the PlayStation 3 suffered on those multi-platform games. It took a very deft hand by developers and coders to actually get the best out of it. When it was coded for correctly, you could have some amazing results, but otherwise, it was absolutely a hindrance to most of PlayStation 3 performance. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And I apologize in advance. Over Easter, one of our lovely friends definitely brought a cold over, and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. Not so bad that I don't want to make videos, but if my voice sounds slightly off, you'll know that that is because why. But honestly, RPCS3 is incredible, and PlayStation 3 emulation keeps getting better basically every single week. The RPCS3 team basically feels like they're trying to speedrun 2026, giving everyone as many improvements to PlayStation 3 emulation as possible. And if you need an RPCS3 guide or an RPCS3 tutorial, go ahead and check my Emulation Night School playlist, you'll find one there as well. But basically the improvement here is going to be performance gains across any platform based upon coding efficiencies and pattern recognitions. And that means it's one of those things that's not going to be a high-end feature or a low-end feature. It's just going to take less CPU overhead to be able to actually run PlayStation 3 emulation on any system out there. And that is the best type of improvement, one that everyone's going to see. And in some instances, it's going to take games that barely get close to running at 60 frames per second and give them a nice uptick. But if we take a look at the RPCS3 Twitter page, and I will leave a link to it in the description below, they were able to identify some patterns in the SPU, and being able to actually optimize those for the PC code gives every single game an uplift in performance, including Twisted Metal, which uses the SPU more than almost any other game on the PlayStation 3, getting 5 to 7% better frames than if you just didn't have this optimized code within RPCS3. And that is absolutely the best type of improvement. The improvement that's basically going to run every single game faster with no additional hardware. Now, yes, RPCS3 benefits from the AVX construction set, and if you have a processor that has that on board, you will see better performance. I don't think that's ever going to go away as a need, but it's one of those things. If you have a PC that is getting close to running a lot of RPCS3 at 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, depending on what you're trying to target, you might actually be able to get to that goal right now because you're going to need less processing power to achieve the same result. Those efficiency updates absolutely make a huge difference, because who wouldn't want actual improved performance for basically quote-unquote free? And this video is available on the RPCS3 Twitter page as well. And that really is the thing. A lot of times I talk about PlayStation 3 emulation, people who don't have a high-end PC like I do, and again, it is for my editing and film work and just benefits the channel in gaming as a bonus, say that they get really close to running games at full speed, but just can't quite get there. Definitely go ahead and take a look at these updates, because it might actually get you across the finish line, for lack of a better term. Now, do be aware that you're still going to have to deal with the compilation of shaders and everything else like that when you're actually playing these games. That's something that's always going to happen, but when you're not actually stuttering from compiling shaders, you might find out that the game actually runs at full speed. But that isn't even the only benefit you're going to see on RPCS3 updates this month, because there's going to be a lot of updates on the handheld side as well, but I'll get into those in the back half of the video. And again, they're talking about the fact that a dual-core Athlon 3000G was showing improved audio rendering and better performance in Gran Turismo 5, and that is not a modern chip whatsoever. So when I talked about recently low-end actual emulation on Linux, trying to use Casio OS to get better performance on low-end hardware than you would on Windows, something like RPCS3, something like Outrun was definitely getting close to wanting to run at a decent speed, but of course you ended up in a situation where you were bottlenecking the CPU. Now 5 to 7% maximum increased performance isn't going to bring it up to something like this that you see here, but any sort of improvements are definitely going to benefit everyone, and that is going to be huge. Let's do a soundtrack sample just so I have a smooth transition into the next sequence, and I'll be right back with more RPCS3.
後をするおタイプ音材が
Now, getting clean audio to RPCS3 definitely takes a decent PC, because you saw it in the previous Twitter example, but that Athlon actually getting a lack of audio stuttering, that is something that you might experience in your emulation as well if you don't have a high enough end system. But I know what you're thinking, Video Game Esoterica, my PC runs RPCS3 fine, but don't forget RPCS3 isn't just a desktop application, it is also something that you can put on your Steam Deck or any number of modern gaming handhelds. Those keep getting more and more powerful, they keep getting more and more popular, and I'm sure in like the next 24 to 36 months you're going to see more and more of these on the market, including potentially a Steam Deck too. And those are always going to be less powerful devices than you have on your desktop right now if you have a gaming PC. But it's one of those things, portable PlayStation 3 emulation, taking it on the go, absolutely an important thing, and I love playing PlayStation 3 games on my Steam Deck and getting these performance gains, and that really is something that matters, and we're going to talk about it in just a moment. But one of the developers of Twisted Metal was so impressed they actually responded to RPCS3, basically saying they were convinced at the time that you would never be able to actually emulate a PlayStation 3. Obviously we know that's not the case. The RPCS3 team is absolutely nailing it when it comes to all of these developments, and it really does kind of feel like magic when something like PlayStation 3 can be emulated. And that's why I say retro gaming is making a comeback, and yes, I think that PS3 is retro at this point in time. But I'll let you guys debate that in the comments, just remember to be nice. And as we kind of segued into the portable aspect of RPCS3, now with actual changes in the emulation, you're going to be able to go into the menu and make a lot of changes to settings that you used to actually have to exit out of the game in emulation to get to actually apply. And that's going to save a ton of time, because you're trying to get a few more frames out of something, having to quit the game, change the setting, go back in, see how it actually worked, and then do that 3, 4, 5 more times would absolutely drive you nuts. So this might even be a bigger overall change than getting better performance out of every single bit of hardware, just because it's going to save you a ton of time. You can leave a comment down below, do you play RPCS3 on any sort of handheld device, and if so, what is it? Second soundtrack sample, 45 seconds, but come back because I still got more to show.
Ready? Go! KO!
And just so you know, that audio in capture is from a Steam Deck, and it was one of those things I actually captured when I did the PlayStation 3 Steam Deck tutorial, and it is so much fun to play these games on portable hardware, and again, getting better performance with some coding efficiencies is going to benefit absolutely everyone, and you're not even really going to notice that happening because you don't even need to push a button to actually get that functionality. But think of it this way, on your gaming PC, if there was some sort of button that you could hit to give you 5 to 7% better performance on some of your favorite games, you would beat that button like it absolutely owed you money. And it's one of those things, getting that in RPCS3 is going to be foundationally huge. And as the development of this emulator goes on, I'm sure the devs are going to find more efficiencies to give you even more performance on the PCs you're already using. Because don't forget, RPCS3 is still in active development. Not every single game is going to run perfectly, and some games don't run whatsoever. And I have absolutely no idea how many years it's going to take to get to the point where 100% of the library is playable from start to finish, but I feel like we're on track, and you never know, maybe a couple of years, maybe by 2030, it'll actually hit that milestone. But in the meantime, the team keeps developing these new features and improvements, and absolutely everyone benefits from them, and that's what we want to see in emulation. Because as much fun as it is to talk about all of these coding changes and new features, at the end of the day, when you load up something like RPCS3, you just want to sit down and have fun. You don't want to think about your specs, you don't want to think about the new feature added, you just want to play a video game like you would if you put the disc on a PlayStation 3 and started playing it from there. And some games that didn't used to work like 12 months ago are now working in RPCS3 and are a ton of fun to play. And honestly, this is one of my favorite PlayStation consoles of all time, and it kind of straddled the line between retro and modern and had a really fun aesthetic. But you tell me down below, PS3 fan or not, an emulation fan of RPCS3 or not, I would be curious. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and again, I apologize if my voice is slightly off, definitely fighting through this cold a little bit. But we are done. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.